It's showtime, folks. Enjoy the show.
And good morning. How are you over there, Steve?
Good morning, Andy. It's a bright side. You know what? It's great to know that we're both under the same clear, bright blue sky with the sun shining on us without hearing complaints about, oh, it's cloudy and rainy again. Because we choose to live in a happy environment rather than the gray, overcast, Portland environment that Pete always complains about.
They are really like different Star Wars planets.
That's true. They
We're on maybe not Tatooine. Maybe I'm trying to think the other desert planets. I don't think any of them were very favorable. So maybe that's not a good comparison.
I don't know. Well, okay. Well, think about this. So we actually could represent different parts of Return of the Jedi because we're out here in the desert where they buried Jabba's ship, which was like outside the
which literally was
yeah, right. And then Pete's like in the rainforest of Endor up there with cute little Ewoks running around that his daughter then hunts down and kills in her survival camp.
Wow, I love it.
There we go.
That sounds
it's
fantastic.
all Return of the Jedi land here on the next reel for the Saturday.
Although I think it may be better being surrounded by Ewoks than giant slugs that want to throw you to the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
If I had to pick.
Yeah.
But anyway, welcome to the Saturday Matinee, everybody. This is our weekend show for all of our wonderful Patreon supporters. Thank you all so much for supporting us and keeping us doing what we're doing. We really appreciate it. And with that, Steve, I guess what's going on in your movie life? Anything new and exciting?
No, it's dull. It's unfortunately dull. It's been busy and it's sort of a lull in the box office. I don't know. There's a couple things to maybe get out and see. I don't know. I know the big thing next week is the whole Avengers End of the Apocalypse Infinity War thing. So yeah, I'll probably get out to see that. It's busy time of year, school year starting to wind down. We've got a high school graduate, so planning graduation parties and just everything else going on. Just haven't had a lot of time to set things aside for getting out to see anything. So whereas you have your MoviePass, so you just go bonkers. Yeah.
It's crazy. 4 movies this week with my MoviePass, and it's great because I just walk in, I check in, and they give me my ticket and I go see the movie. I haven't paid a dime. It's fantastic. It's like, why did it take me so long to get this? And then I had it forever, but I didn't use it. And that was just dumb. So
now, do none of the theaters around you have the reserved seating, or do they have it, but you can still easily use it there?
No, the theater near me has an IMAX screen, and I can't watch anything on that.
Right. Okay.
But it doesn't have reserved seating yet. So I haven't, I guess I have gone to one AMC near me where I was going to use it, but the movie we saw, which, was A Quiet Place, was in the, that Dolby.
Oh, the Dolby Cinema.
Dolby Cinema.
Yeah.
And I couldn't use it for that.
Okay.
So there are times that I can and can't use it, but let me tell you, A Quiet Place in that Dolby Cinema was fantastic.
The silences were surrounding us. It was amazing.
It really was. Oh, but no, it has been great. So it's an interesting tool to start using. And I know I've read a lot of problems or complaints that people have as far as, them blocking certain movies or making it look like there are no tickets for it, whatnot, to pump other movies. But I've only been using it for a week, so I haven't quite noticed any of that sort of stuff yet.
Okay. Because I am, I'm starting to come off the fence onto that side. I have, a couple of movie theaters near me, and 2 of them are reserved seating. One's an AMC, so I know that one's probably out. And then the other one, it's reserved seating.
No, AMC's.
No, they do.
Reserved seating. Yeah. Well, sorry. Yeah. If it's reserved seating, sorry.
Yeah.
I should.
Yeah. I don't know. So AMC does take it, but you can't use it.
Harkins does not.
Harkins does not take it at all?
No.
Oh, that's what I've got near me. Is I've got 2 Harkins theaters and I've got an AMC near me. So I thought, okay, I've got an AMC, or I've got a Harkins that was just recently completely renovated, all reserved seating, which is great. Cause I love being able to get my ticket in advance and then just walk in instead of having to be oh, I got to get there this amount of time early and hope I get a seat.
Right.
And then the other is just, old school, you just, general admission seating. So I thought, oh, that might work. And sometimes they get some of the smaller, sort of art house type films. I thought, okay, those aren't as full. Maybe MoviePass would be great to just, I'm going to show up and just, walk into something. But yeah, if Harkins doesn't take it, if you've tried at Harkins and they don't take it.
Well, when you open the app, it'll show you a map and it'll show you which theaters near you you can use it at. And right now, only the AMC ones light up. I mean, it's not to say one of these days Harkins may. Okay. But at this point, they're not taking it.
Oh, okay. Well, that just made the decision for me. So I love supporting my local Harkins theaters, and their popcorn is amazing. So that's sort of all right.
Well, I tell you, if Harkins was next to me, that's where I'd be going to, because they're the best screens in town.
All right. Well, that's I'll just
until they do. All right. Well, we'll talk about it when they start.
If they do that,
yes.
Yeah. So I did have one piece of news I did want to follow up. A couple weeks ago, Pete went off on some weird side tangent about this whole NXIVM thing, and there was just an article in the New York Times saying that Alison Mack of Smallville has been charged with sex trafficking. And so she has now been arrested for her involvement, basically for recruiting people to this NXIVM organization. So wanted to follow up on that because it was something Pete had mentioned and talked about Alison Mack, and it was interesting to see what happened. And now that they have actually arrested and charged her, I think it'll be interesting to see where this sort of spills out into. So,
well, it's one of those things where it makes you wonder exactly, because it really is this cult situation that she fell into. And it's probably right that she was charged with sex trafficking, but it also makes you wonder, how much brainwashing had she gone through to kind of get to that point? Is it, I feel like when you're getting into cults like that, like they rewire your brain and you end up just kind of a different person than you were.
Oh yeah. There's no doubt. I think it's not a simple, this is clearly, these are bad people doing bad things. When you get these celebrities involved, and then it's something that's so fringe as this, how much sort of programming and twisting has gone on to get them to this point. So it'd be interesting to see sort of how this plays out, if ultimately it falls solely on the shoulders of the leader of the organization, or how you sort of prosecute organizations like this. So.
Yeah, right. I know. It'll be interesting to see how the whole thing unfolds. You mentioned box office earlier. I thought we would play a little game this morning, and just see how savvy you think you are with the box office of 2018 so far.
Oh, okay.
So this is the domestic numbers. I don't have the international numbers open, but I can look at those here in a sec. So for domestic box office grosses, it should be easy to guess what the number one film of 2018 is so far.
That's Black Panther.
What do you
think?
think?
Black Panther.
Yes.
That's Black Panther,
all
right?
Number two?
Okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely Black Panther, yeah.
Number two. I'm old. I have a horrible memory. I don't even remember what came out earlier this year. I'm trying to think what else was up there in the range of that. Is it? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Give me a clue. Give me something.
I was just going to say it's not very old.
Okay. Okay. It's from 2 weeks ago. Beirut. No. Okay.
Surprise smash of 2018.
Oh, I'm trying to think what else.
That's something people never say about Beirut.
A nice little political thriller and everything. I'm trying to think what I don't even remember what our film boards have been for this year. Oh, would it be Ready Player One? Is that
It is Ready Player One, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So yeah, that's the tent poles. I figure if I just sort of wind my way back to tent poles. But A Quiet Place, is that up there in like the top 10 or something? Because I thought that had or maybe it's stronger than they thought, but it's still not like stellar numbers, right?
Well, is that your guess for third place?
No, it's still too new. It's going to be something like, oh wait, is it going to be, because I never go to these movies. Wasn't there one of the 50 Shades movies? Because those always like have like big weekends or something like that for all.
That's in the top 5, but it's not third place.
Okay, what is?
This is one that I was really surprised to see on the list, but and you probably, it wasn't even on your radar, I'm sure.
Okay,
it is the animated film Peter Rabbit.
Oh, okay, because that came out. You had the kids stuff and James Corden doing the voice. So yeah, I could see that doing a. Because there wasn't any Disney Pixar stuff, and people are always looking for something alternate programming. So
there was, right. So that's the animated film in the top 5. Okay, number 4 is A Quiet Place, which you already mentioned. So it's already shot up that high, which is nice to see. And then number 5 is 50 Shades Freed. So,
because people will go for that. Yeah. All right. Well, that's a nice mix. It's a nice little representative mix so far. Okay.
And then 6 through 10. 6 is A Wrinkle in Time. 7 is I Can Only Imagine. 8 is Game Night. 9 is Insidious, The Last Key, and 10 is Pacific Rim Uprising.
Really? Okay. Well,
yeah. So that's the top 10 films.
Rampage
domestically this year.
Rampage has only been out for like a week, because I figured that's gonna. Dwayne Johnson usually gets some big box office attention.
Yeah, and it's already made almost 46,000, so it's at 14th place right now. Okay. And I can guarantee it's going to get up there.
Yeah, because that's the.
So I'd like to think that it'll beat 50 Shades Freed. I guess we'll see.
I sure hope so.
Oh my. Yes, but so it's pretty interesting. And for some reason, I can't find their tab for the international releases, so I'll have to. Maybe I'll have that ready for next week. But yeah, just kind of interesting to see where the year is off to so far.
Well, yeah, because you got Deadpool 2 coming out soon. I mean, it's going to be Avengers Infinity War. It will be like the biggest thing until who knows when. I imagine that's going to just.
Well, I'm really curious to see, because I mean, Black Panther has done so incredibly well for itself. It's just amazing how that film has done at the box office, both in terms of the domestic box office, the worldwide box office, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe box office. I mean, I don't know if they were expecting that one to end up as the number 1 film, but there it sits. Yeah. So I'm curious to see how Avengers Infinity War fares with that one.
Yeah, I think the thing that it has going for it is it's an event, movie. People that maybe wait to see, the other Marvel movies, streaming or Redbox, or, this might be the one that gets them, out to the theaters, because it's the big event. It's the big coming together of everything. You don't want to miss this. It's going to be great to see on the big screen. They shot the whole thing in IMAX. So that's
insane.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's what it has going for it. It's just this unstoppable behemoth of force, just, waiting to just land next weekend and take over for a good bulk of the summer, I'm sure. So.
Yeah. Yeah. That and Deadpool 2. And there are so many big tentpole movies coming soon that it probably was smart for them to move it to April, just to give it some breathing room away from everything else. Yeah.
So then you go in the opposite direction with your trailer.
Yeah. So I guess we're jumping into trailers.
Unless you've got other news.
No, okay. I don't.
I'm gonna keep us moving along.
Excellent. Well, my trailer, I pulled the old A24 rule again, because
it's always a good one.
And this was absolutely. This was a trailer that I actually saw several weeks ago. And I was going to pick it, but I opted not to, because I can't remember which trailer I went with. But knowing that this film, First Reformed, still has a few weeks before it opens, about a month. It opens May 18th this year. I still wanted a chance to talk about it on the Saturday matinee, because it looks really interesting. It's Ethan Hawke, who we know is one of the busiest people in the world. He's always in something, it seems. And it's written and directed by Paul Schrader, which is always exciting. Well, I should say
depressing.
Most of the time exciting to see. Well, no, he did that movie Dog Eat Dog a couple years ago, which just was one of the most awful films. I hated it so much. So that was a very, very frustrating thing. But, and it's funny because Paul Schrader is one of those guys who is he's a writer director. He's been around since the 70s. We talked about him when we did Taxi Driver on the show. I don't know if there's anything else we've talked about that he's been a part of on the show, but he's done a wide variety of really, really compelling films. And I find him a really interesting filmmaker, whether he's working as a writer or working as a director or working as a writer-director, as he is in this case. This film is about a priest, who is, I guess he's struggling with the death of his son, who he kind of encouraged him to enlist, and that's just been kind of weighing on him for quite a bit. And so he's struggling with kind of his direction, I guess you could say. You see that in the trailer. And then he meets a woman, played by Amanda Seyfried, who is trying to get some counseling from him because her husband, it seems, is starting to go down kind of a dark path, potentially, of maybe turning into like this radical environmentalist and maybe starting to make some decisions that he shouldn't. And the trailer it's not a lot of storytelling, but there's a lot of really interesting character stuff happening in the trailer. And I love seeing Ethan Hawke struggle as this priest, trying to figure out, what to do and decisions to make and everything. I love seeing Cedric the Entertainer in here as his priest. And just watching these people working together through the trailer just got me real excited to see this movie. What do you think of this one?
Oh, yeah. This is like Paul Schrader, like in his zone of characters that are struggling with, it's just this internal conflict, and he's always able to bring issues together around a character. And when that works, it works so well. And I think Ethan Hawke, this is the type of role he just really digs into and can really just bring to life. There's, sort of getting into our, list. There's that angst of these characters of their own internal strife and struggle, which can be a very challenging thing to portray visually. So you need a good story to really surround that. And to me, I'm very excited about this film because it's tackling such relevant issues today. To take something like this, I think it's a bold move because it's subject matter people just don't talk about. You get into people becoming radicalized or just, losing touch with the world and getting out onto a fringe of feeling isolated and an outsider that needs to speak up to bring attention to something that's important to them. They felt that's being pushed aside. I think is a really important topic to take on. And I hope we'll bring up about lots of discussion about it. So I'm very excited to see this one. If I had my MoviePass, it'd be one that I'd be right there for.
Well, it does look really compelling, and it's another opportunity to see Ethan Hawke, who is always great. And let's see, how many other movies is he in? He's only got 3 films on the radar for 2018. Weirdly, this is not showing up as one. Well, probably because it played at the Venice Film Festival last year, so it's listed as a 2017 film. But 2018, he's got Juliet Naked, that's based on a novel that I really enjoy, and Stockholm, and then a TV series called Sandra. Okay. So he's already off to a busy start with 2018.
Yeah, this is one that I expect. I hope isn't going to be at a theater near me, so they get a chance to see it. But this is one that I see just possibly not. It's May 18th. It's right. People are looking for their uplifting summer, tentpole blockbusters and light comedies. So, this is nice counter programming. I just hope that it finds a screen near me because this is what I would really like to get out to support and see. So,
well, if anything, you live closer to the art house screen than I do, so it'll probably be easier for you to go see than me.
Yes.
And you know what? If not, we should schedule a time to go down to the Alamo if it's playing down there.
That's a must. Okay, we'll get that on the calendar.
Deal.
All right.
Okay, what's your trailer?
So I'm bringing a sequel to a Film Board film. I'm bringing Denzel back. I'm bringing Antoine Fuqua back. I'm bringing a script written by Richard Wenk. I'm talking about The Equalizer Dose. So it's been a while since the first one. I got to look back to see what was that, about 4 years ago. Yeah, 2014, The Equalizer. And as you may or may not recall, this is the story of a man who has put his mysterious past behind him, and he is dedicated to just living a quiet life and helping people around him. And he works in sort of like a Home Depot type place, and he gets involved with, if you recall from the story in the first one, he hangs out at a diner. There's a girl that's, sort of working as a prostitute. She wants to get out of that and pursue a career as a singer, and like the Russian mafia is involved. And so basically it becomes Denzel versus the Russian mafia with lots of killing, and sort of one of his trademark pieces. And they show this in the trailer for Equalizer 2 is he'll look around his surroundings and basically plan out his attack, and then he sets a time to it. So then he'll start his little watch, and he'll look around, he'll be like 19 seconds, starts his little stopwatch, goes out, kills everybody, stops his watch. Oh, look at that, 19 seconds. So it's to portray this very methodical person. So this time around, he's back. He is now, looks like he's like a Lyft or Uber driver, and the story digs into his past. So he was involved with some, secret government agency. So there's now an organization that's sort of trying to go after the people there. So we're going to get a little bit more backstory, which I'm excited about with a sequel. How do you open up the story? How do you find another interesting story to tell? In this case, we've got interesting backstory and characters and his history of who he is to maybe give us the next chapter in the story. And then we'll see if the franchise continues from there. But the fact that we've got the same writer, we've got the same director on this, it brings a lot of promise for me that this wasn't something that, the studio was just pushing and they couldn't get the original team back together. They've got everybody back together on this one. This is coming out July 20th. We've got Denzel Washington. We've got Bill Pullman and Melissa Leo returning as his friends. So I'm excited to see that whole team back together for this one.
Did you call it the Equalizer Dose for any particular reason, or was it just to be cheeky?
Just to be cheeky.
Because I was like, is he in some weird way referencing back to Alison Mack and her sex trafficking? Because the secret nickname for the leader of that was Dose.
Oh no! Oh gosh, no! Wow, I'm not that awake. No, it's very interesting how they've sort of in the trailer how they've stylized the two with like it's the L and the I believe in the poster make the Roman numeral 2. So yeah, I'm just being cheeky about a sequel.
Well, I did enjoy the first one. I didn't love it as much as you did, but it's Antoine Fuqua and Denzel Washington doing what the two of them do best when they're working together. And so as long as it doesn't go into the over the top silliness route with, the duel at Home Depot, like the first one did, then I'm on board. I think the trailer for this looks exciting, has a lot of interesting stuff, and count me in. I'm curious about this one, and I think it would make a fun one to go see on the big screen.
Perfect for your MoviePass.
Yes, indeed. Yes, it is. Absolutely. So. But see, then this is where the trick is going to fall, because it's like, okay, this one might be a good one to see in like Dolby Cinema.
Oh, that's true.
Or in Atmos or something where you get a much bigger experience. So it's going to be one of those things I'm going to have to start weighing with this. If I'm going to see blockers, perfect for MoviePass.
Yeah, that's true. You get all the bone crunching sound in an action movie like this. So yeah, it may be worth the extra to pay for the Atmos experience. So that's our trailer picks for this week. So
well, we are I guess it's time to jump into the lists then, huh?
Yes.
So this week we talked about Rebel Without a Cause on the show, and because of that, we opted to do our lists of films with great teen angst. Because we know you love that, Steve. There's nothing more enjoyable in a film.
I have to say, after listening to you two talk about Rebel Without a Cause, it has been a long time since I've seen that film, and I realize I really need to see it again, because I really enjoyed it the first time, and it's just been far too long since I've seen it. I thought I've got an itch to see this movie. I haven't seen, that it's probably been 20 years since I've watched it. And oddly enough, I've seen Rebel Without a Cause. I've seen Giant. I have not seen East of Eden. I've never finished my James Dean trilogy. So now I think it's been a long enough time since I've seen Rebel Without a Cause and Giant that I'm going to have to sit down and do a little, James Dean festival to watch all three of them, because hearing you guys discuss them, it just has reminded me how much I enjoy seeing him on screen.
He's fantastic on screen, and I haven't quite gotten to start Giant yet. That's going to be my epic watch probably today, and I'm going to have to sit down and take a big chunk of time for it, because it's a beastie one.
It's an epic. Yeah, there was just, I don't know what it was in that decade where they would you'd sometimes get these, when they went big, they went huge, epic, like over 3 hour. 3 hours in length. Cause I also did, I had a big chunk of time. I was like, I've never seen Cleopatra. It's this big epic. Maybe I should probably sit down and watch it. It's just the huge spectacle of everything. Yeah. It's just amazing how you talk about gigantic, films. Nowadays you can see things that are that big and it's like, it's all green screen. There it's, the scope and scale of everything and the story and sets and everything is amazing. What they were able to accomplish, back then. So, yeah,
definitely true.
So, teen angst.
Yeah, why don't you kick it off, since this is your memorial list?
Well, I've got
that's really the wrong word, because it sounds like you're dead.
Well, I've got 4 lists. So, and I guess because I started just
that's right, lists within lists.
Yes, I have 4 sort of categories, and each with a list of 3. But I guess if I'm going to start, and you're going to talk about teen angst, I have to go with a movie that, a famous quote from the movie, "Dear Diary, my teen angst BS now has a body count." Talking about Heathers from 1988. You talk about teen angst, you talk about, the 80s, sort of the heyday of teen films. You have to talk about Heathers. I know they tried to reboot it as a TV series, and I thought, no, don't. There's no need to do that. And then they tried to take it a different direction. And no, this is one of those that just works so well as it is. Winona Ryder, Christian Slater, Shannon Doherty. You've got the Heathers, the clique running things at the school, and then you've got Jason Dean coming in, causing trouble, and suddenly kids start dying off, and you're talking about teen suicide, you're talking about bullying, so many relevant issues that in such a darkly comic way, just one of my favorite classic teenage movies.
That's a brilliant one. It was the first steal of the morning, so congrats there. It's absolutely brilliant. It's a movie that always struck a chord with me, and one I always still enjoy watching. So great first choice. Just wonderful. Well, my first choice is going a completely different direction than yours. It's a more recent film, but it takes place in farther times. This is a really compelling World War II film, I guess it's fair to say, called The Reader, with Kate Winslet, Ralph Fiennes. And the story is really kind of, it takes place over 2 periods, but largely the teenager that has the angst is the young Ralph Fiennes, played by David Cross, who he gets sick when he's young, and this woman helps him, and he's healing for quite a while, and then because he had scarlet fever, and then when he's better, he goes and visits this woman who helped him, and she's a much older woman who then seduces him, and they begin this affair, and it turns into this big thing. And then later he learns that she's on trial for being involved with the Nazis, basically, and the angst that kind of is created with him, and then that he still is dealing with, that you see as an adult, as Ralph Fiennes. It really makes for this compelling story of watching this kid kind of learn about and try to help, but not really sure, this woman who had such an influential place in his young life and his growth as an adolescent. Made for a really compelling story, and it was a script that I read when I first got the chance, and then I watched the film and that Stephen Daldry directed, and just completely fell in love with it. So that's my first pick, The Reader.
Haven't seen it. It's
really good. And this is the one that Kate Winslet won her Oscar for.
Yeah, I'm going to put it there. Yeah. I'm going to put it on my list of. I'll put it right there next to my In the Name of the Father of the movies that Andy won't talk to me until I see.
That's right.
Movies. So yeah, it's
definitely worth checking out.
And this is one of those films that I know is going to be good, and honestly, it's one of those that's about sort of the mindset of I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch this and engage with this film, and finding the time to. It's easy when you're in a theater to say I'm here and I'm solely focused on this movie. When you're watching things at home, there's just so many things that can be distracting. And when I see a movie like this, I want to make sure that it has 100% of my attention. And it's just really challenging sometimes to find those times where I can say uninterrupted block of time. Let me just engage with this. So this is one of those movies where it's waiting for that spot in my schedule where I can say, yeah, I can do this. And I know I won't be interrupted. And I know I'm going to be awake enough to engage with this. Cause it's easy to, once the kids go to sleep, say, oh, I'm going to put on something, but then it's so late at night. Do I have the mental capacity to really focus and engage with the content of the film in a way that I want to? So that's
right.
What, I want to respect the art of the film and give it what it deserves. So, but I'm writing it on my list right now. I'm going to put it right there.
Excellent.
There we are.
All right. Okay. What's next on your list?
I'm going to stick with my dark list. So this is my dark teen angsty list. And so it's sort of could be called the Heather's honorary list because it's just that sort of set the tone for this list. So, but I'm getting into some obscure territory, I think, here for some people, because I'm digging way back, staying in the 80s, I guess, though. But this has a connection to Rebel Without a Cause because it has Dennis Hopper in it. And this is also an early film with Crispin Glover, Keanu Reeves, Ione Skye. And if there was a teen movie if there was an artsy teenish movie, you had Joshua John Miller in it as well from Near Dark. I'm talking about Tim Hunter's film from 1986, River's Edge, the story about a high school student that kills his girlfriend and then tells his friends at school about it. And they go down to the river where her body is to see if he's telling the truth or not, and then watch what happens as the teens sort of respond to this, struggle how to react to this, and Keanu Reeves trying to, engage with the adult world. There's a very sharp distinction in this film between sort of the teens and then the adult world and what that generation felt in the 80s. I remember seeing this when I worked at the video store in high school, and just, it's a disturbing film, but to me, it captured so much of when you're in high school and you've got your little group of friends and you're your own little society, and then you've got the adult world, and there's a big gap between those and how the adults perceive teens. And there was a lot of discussion when this came out about the apathy that the teen characters display towards death, and that the adult characters in the film also discuss. It's not an easy watch, but I think it gets into that whole teen angst of finding your place in the world and coping with troubling issues. And just some great performances. I tried watching the trailer. Oh my gosh, the trailer that they cut for this is horrible. The music completely undercuts the tone of the film. This is not a light teen film. This is heavy, dark, serious stuff, but it is a good watch if you can endure that.
I remember watching it when I was in high school, and it was just, I guess as a high school kid, it was just such a dark film that I could never really get into it. I was just it didn't hit me. It just didn't, I think it was just too dark for me. I just wasn't into it. So I think it's one of those films that definitely deserves a rewatch, so I can check it out again. Because I do remember feeling it was pretty compelling, but I just, when you're a kid, sometimes those darker films are things you're just not interested in seeing.
Yes.
So Good choice, though. I had forgotten about that one. That would have been a great one to throw onto the list. So for my next one, because you went dark, I feel like I shouldn't go dark with my next choice. But I have an awful lot of, now that I look at it, I mean, it's angst.
Yeah.
So they're darker
Yes,
films
they are.
anyway.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with a film that I think is a really interesting film in that it's one of those examples, I think, a perfect example of watching the director's cut versus the theatrical cut, and it's like a world of difference. And it is Francis Ford Coppola's adaptation of The Outsiders.
Yes.
I had never seen that film. I don't know how I completely missed it as a kid. I'd read the book, but when I was young, but I really didn't remember it very well. And then they came out with a kind of this deluxe special edition with both versions of it, and so I was really curious about it. And so I watched the original theatrical version of it, which I thought, they did an okay job with. And then I watched the director's cut, and I'm like, wow, what a world of difference. It really just made everything work so much better in the film, and really developed all the characters so much better. The fantastic group of teenagers that are just kind of struggling with their life. It's C. Thomas Howell, Matt Dillon, Ralph Macchio, Patrick Swayze, Rob Lowe, Diane Lane, Emilio Estevez, Tom Cruise, Leif Garrett. Huge cast, and they all do great jobs in this film. It's just a fantastic story of watching these kind of these low income teens and just kind of the journey that they go on. Is it Ponyboy and I can't remember who the other one is. Who is it? Johnny who take off? Yeah. So after they stab someone.
That's right.
So and Stay Gold, Ponyboy. I mean, everything about it just worked really well. Just solid story and great performances from these young actors that you could see why they went on to do such great things. Just a really solid group of people here. So that's my next choice.
That's a great pick. I don't know that I've seen the extended cut.
Some people struggle with it because Coppola went back and for the music, he added a lot of period music, and some people feel that the music is a little kind of it throws the feel. It's like it's music of the time. It's a lot of 60s songs and stuff. And but for me, it just helped sell the world. So I guess I really latched onto that.
I'm gonna have to check that out, because it was funny. We just last week we were talking about great movies of the 80s, and somebody mentioned The Outsiders, and we started talking about just the cast of, everybody. It's just amazing performances from them as such, young actors. And then to see how so many of them just where that trajectory took them, and the fact that whoever was the casting agent on this film is just genius. I mean, to find everybody and get all of them, it's one of those where you just look at this and say, oh my gosh, everybody is in this movie and they're all really good. Yeah. This is one of those, it's a classic, and it's one of those things where you can look at Coppola and say at this point in his career, he was putting together really good films, and he was sometimes forced to make cuts, but when you see the director's vision of that, he's one that, at this era, I trust that he knew what he was doing, and maybe it's longer or bigger than the studios wanted at that time, but usually he was doing what was in service of the story. So I'm really interested. I'm going to add that to my list of Andy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Check it out.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. Your final choice.
My final on my dark list. This is a little bit more obscure that probably a lot of people missed, but it's more recent. So I'm moving past the 80s, but another story about teen angst and bullying. This was, again, it's a dark and disturbing film. Basically, the story is about kid who gets bullied at school, and so his brother decides, hey, let's let's get this kid, and we're going to take care of this problem. Let's invite him on a little trip. We're all going to take a trip as friends, and we're going to bring this kid with us, and we're going to pretend to be friends with him, and we're going to then take care of this. I'm talking about 2004's Mean Creek, with Rory Culkin and Ryan Kelly. It is just a really powerful film because it's, to not give too much away, it starts off as, oh, we're gonna bully this kid. We're gonna give him a little taste of his own medicine, but things quickly escalate from there, and it becomes much darker and more sinister, and is not what I expected it to be. But it is a powerful film, and I think, again, timely matters of the angst that's part of being a teen, but also that bullying that's part of that I think was something that was present in the 80s, but wasn't just sort of discussed head on. That's where a lot of that angst comes from, is just the dynamics of different groups of people. And this one just really did a really nice job, and a film that I think was greatly overlooked. It's, a really powerful film. If you can find it out there streaming someplace, I suggest you check it out.
Great movie, great choice. I had forgotten about that one too, but wow, a lot of emotion and power in that little film. So I haven't seen it since it first came out, but that's a really strong choice, and definitely one worth checking out. So good call on that one. Well, for my final one, I have to go inspirational, and I'm talking Carpe Diem. I'm talking Make Your Lives Extraordinary. I'm talking Oh Captain, My Captain. I'm going with Dead Poets Society, Peter Weir's film from 1989. It's a film that has just always struck a chord with me. An incredibly powerful story about teaching and finding who you are and doing something important with yourself. And while I don't know if just calling it a teen angst film is completely accurate, you certainly have some teen angst in here with some of these teens as they struggle in their own lives, while their teacher, John Keating, played by Robin Williams, tries to help them shape themselves. But the most angst-ridden teen of all, I would say, is Neil in this film, played by Robert Sean Leonard, who really struggles with the control that his father has over his life, and latching on to Keating and his teachings, and kind of starting up this Dead Poets Society. It really helps him, but it still doesn't help him in his battle with his father. And I won't spoil it for those who haven't seen it, but watching as that plays out as Neil tries to break free, but then finds that his father is still too powerful a force in his life, and where that takes the film is really it's really heartbreaking. And then again, going back to Ethan Hawke from our earlier trailer pick, seeing him as, I guess you could say, another of the angst-ridden teens in this, trying to figure out who he is through the process of this whole film, and seeing how that really shapes him and develops him by the end of the film, I think is pretty powerful stuff.
Oh, I'm so thrilled that you picked this. Actually, The Outsiders and Dead Poets Society were ones that I had sort of on a separate side list of ones, but I thought, well, if Andy covers these, great, because these are films, and Dead Poets Society, one of my probably favorite films of all time. It also holds a important position within our family because my oldest daughter is able to emotionally separate herself from film a lot of the time because she says, well, I know it's not real. I know it's a story. This is one of the few movies that has actually made her cry. She really connected with this, which I thought was interesting because it's a story about boys. And I think it was maybe her freshman or sophomore year in high school when she watched this, and it just really touched her and moved her. And I was relieved to see her connect with this story that I think is just, it's a great story. This is one that, I saw in the theater, I think twice. It was one of those few movies where I said, I need to see this again right away. It was just a powerful story, about growing up and becoming an adult. And I'm so thrilled that you included this on your list because, I hope that it hasn't become a forgotten film because I think it is such a great and powerful story with tremendous performances from those young actors.
Absolutely. Well, that's it. Do you want to throw in any honorable mentions? I know you have hundreds of choices over there.
So, well, I will give a throwback shout out to my first ever 3 of a Kind episode that talked about high school films and looks at Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, The Spectacular Now, and Kings of Summer. So that's sort of a 2010s look at high school and 3 really good films that I think were at the forefront of a new wave of important films for teenagers. So I'll throw that list and you can dig back into the archives to the first ever 3 of a Kind. We could probably spend another hour just going through great, teenage films. There's just so many out there.
Yeah, you could easily you go through John Hughes's early catalog and hit most of
which I was like, oh, they'll have talked about these. What? There's been no John Hughes series. But it is. There's so many. I mean, there are so many great films for you guys to get through on the main show. So I know someday we'll get around to that. But those were. I always like to use this opportunity to maybe highlight films that have been overlooked or forgotten. And I think everybody's aware of John Hughes and his films. So I thought you dug out some really good ones here that I think have been forgotten or, overlooked. Yeah,
so, really good list of exciting films. Exactly. So definitely a lot of stuff worth checking out here.
Right.
So next week on our list, or on the show, we're talking about the final James Dean film, which he finished right before he died. And that is George Stevens' film Giant. And so we're trying something new. And for all of our Patreon supporters who haven't been poking around over on Discord, or who haven't tuned into the Rebel Without a Cause show, we're trying something where we're putting it to a vote over on Discord for our Patreon supporters to kind of pick what they think we should talk about. And Pete and I come up with some options during the show, and then put the poll over on Discord, and people get to vote on them. The winner of our 3 choices, which were movies featuring giants, which I threw in there for Pete because he had never seen it before, and hey, why not?
Okay.
Films that feature striking oil and making it rich, and then Western epics. And the one that got the most vote is Western epics. So we're going to be talking about that on the show next week. You have an idea of some options for your list already?
I don't, but I'm glad to see that one out of all 3 options, because I don't know, striking oil. I know making it rich. That I don't know. That's a little bit more challenging. Western epics gives you a little bit more latitude to go, and I don't know that I would call Giant necessarily a Western, but I know it's got that feel to it, and I think it's a good fit for this.
Yeah, it's like it's a Western in the sense of like No Country for Old Men being a Western.
Exactly.
It's that type of Western. It's not necessarily cowboys,
right.
But it is people in the West and just kind of the lives that they lead. They're still at ranches on horses and stuff. So
exactly.
I mean, it's a modern Western,
right.
maybe.
Yeah. So I think that's gonna take some thinking and pondering to come up with a list for that one, because there's no teenagers out in Westerns, so I'm not sure what I'm.
Maybe you're forgetting some. I'm sure there's. I'm sure there's one
oh,
somewhere.
Geez. Oh no. Well, I don't know.
But are they full of angst? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Are there any A24 Westerns you're going to pull in for your list? We'll have to see about that too.
Well, it's hard to say, because epic. Yeah. Like I don't know if it's fair to call them epics, but A24 they did. What was the trailer I talked about last year with Bill Pullman?
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. It'll be a challenge.
I haven't seen it, so I wouldn't be able to put it on the list anyway. But The Ballad of Lefty Brown, that's what it was. Should be fun. Should make for a fun show next week. And until then, enjoy your movie life. And thank you all who are supporting us on Patreon. We appreciate it. We couldn't do it without you. And Steve, have a great rest of your weekend.
Hondo.